So I'm going to talk for about 10 minutes on subjects that is particularly close to my heart, that I'm particularly passionate about, which is soil and sustainable food systems. Little bit about me first. So my name's Abi, and I'm a co-director with Propagate, which is a workers' cooperative. We're a collective. We're based across mostly the Central Belt and the southwest of Scotland. We're specialists in local, community and sustainable food systems work. I've been sort of growing on a market garden scale for about 25 years. I'm a food educator, so I've been teaching lots of people about food and how to grow food and how to cook healthy food. Smallholder, also help a few local farmers with their cattle. I'm also sort of involved in food policy work, both in an urban and rural context. So that's a bit about me. Part of my work, so I'm based in Dumfries and Galloway, and part of my work down here is coordinating the Dumfries and Galloway Sustainable Food Partnership. For those that aren't aware of what a sustainable food partnership is, there's around 80 across the whole country now, across the UK, and I think 8 to 10 in Scotland. A sustainable food partnership is usually local authority based, and it's a cross-sector, multi-stakeholder collaboration that involves different partners who are involved in the food system in different ways. So example we have in Dumfries and Galloway is we have the partners are National Farmers Union, local branch here, NHS, the Health and Social Care Partnership, Dumfries and Galloway Council, different departments, Eat South West Scotland, which represents the food businesses and hospitality, the Galloway and Southern Ayrshire Biosphere, we have a focus on environment and sustainability, and Dumfries and Galloway College, and increasingly we're trying to find ways to include voices of communities. So our kind of aim is right here. So we're looking at working together for a food system that is basically sustainable and resilient, is healthy for people, animals and the environment, and is fair and equitable for people who are working in the food system, and to ensure that everybody has equal access to affordable, good, healthy, culturally appropriate food. These are some of our aims and sort of areas of work for this year. So we have a group called the Regenerative Farmers Network, which most of the rest of my presentation is going to focus on. So I won't talk too much about that just now. We are working around local procurement and supply chains. So working with mainly Dumfries and Galloway Council to look at how we can increase the offering of locally produced food on the school food plates. We've just today launched the bookings open for the first of our chefs sessions, which are Monday morning sessions looking at open to chefs and restaurateurs from across the region, looking at different aspects of sustainable food and the circular economy. So session 1 is on the 11th of April, looking at how to get more veg-centric meals and less but better meat on the school food plate. We have a food education working group. So that's different partners from across different sectors, statutory and mainstream education, as well as community and adult health and social care, all looking at mapping and info gathering around what's already on offer around food education, where the gaps are and how we can work collaboratively to fill those gaps. And then finally, a final piece of work for this year is convening and organising the Dumfries and Galloway Community Food Network, which brings together community growing projects, community food shares, cooking workshops, etc., to kind of share and learn from each other, offer peer support to each other, raise the profile of what they're doing and influence policy as well. Did that move? Yep, move slides, excellent. So the rest of my presentation, I'm really going to focus, as I said, on the first strand of work outlined there, which is the Regenerative Farmers Network. So the Regenerative Farmers Network is a peer-to-peer sort of knowledge exchange group, really. It's currently comprises around, I think we've got about almost 100 people on the group. It's an email group at the moment primarily, but what we are doing is organising a series of farm walks throughout the year. farmers and food producers across Dumfries and Galloway, but also East Ayrshire and South Ayrshire, welcome as well. So it's called the Southwest Regenerative Farmers Group. And the idea is to get out onto farms and look at where there's some really good practice around regenerative, nature-friendly and climate-friendly farming practice in actions. So a small sort of piece of background, the image that you're looking at here came from some of our early farm walks last year. We managed to get 2 in August, and at those farm walks we had a visioning exercise where we collectively thought about what we wanted our food and farming systems to look like, smell like and taste like in 2045. We asked each other what people would be there and what jobs will they be doing. And those discussions were captured by an artist who created this image, which is available to take to community organisations and groups and events as a jigsaw to stimulate conversation. Those sort of visions sessions were a part of the Fork to Farm dialogues, which was a global project in the run-up to COP26, held by Nourish, and there were similar groups all over the world: Indonesia, Mexico, Kenya, and here in Dumfries and Galloway. So rolling on into this year, people were keen to keep this going. In fact, very enthusiastic to keep it going, and the numbers have grown. So we ended last year with about 80 farmers on the group, and we're now up to about 100, as I say. We, at the beginning of this year, or when people join the group, they basically complete a survey. And that survey asks people, you know, what kind of things do people want to learn and find out more about, and also what knowledge and skills can they share, and also can they host a farm walk. We've got a few farmers who are up for that. We've got a right mix of people, some people who are quite far on in their journey towards kind of more biodiverse agroecological systems and regenerative systems, and other farmers who are just coming on board and really at the very start of that journey at the moment. So some of the gaps that folk have identified, and this is in order of importance and appearance, although actually habitat creation and management has just overtaken soil health and biology, interestingly. But when I put the slides together a few days ago, soil health and biology was at the top of things that people wanted to learn more about. So yeah, this is a sort of brief list of things that folk want to know more about. Soil is really at the heart of all of these systems, but yeah, grazing and grassland management is kind of coming up in importance for people as folk hear more about mob grazing and holistic grazing plans. And our first farm walk next Friday is to a farm in Ayrshire where they are mob grazing and outwintering their Aberdeen Angus, as well as selling local beef. So we try to capture as much as we can around sort of the kind of holistic farming systems and demonstrate that at the farm walks. That's more or less the plan. So all of that can really be related to these 5 principles, if you like, of regenerative agriculture. These are being, like, people often ask, what on earth is regenerative agriculture anyway? And it is quite hard to pin down, but it's more often than not coming round to these kind of 5 principles. And I've borrowed this slide, as you can probably tell, from an organisation called Groundswell. Groundswell based down south in England, and later in June, there's the Regenerative Agriculture Conference, which will be held at Groundswell, which will be a big gathering of farmers and practitioners involved in this movement. From across the whole country. Tickets on sale on the 3rd of March, so get in there fast. So they created this lovely slide, which yeah, is kind of outlines and really sort of visualizes these 5 principles of regenerative agriculture, which I'm going to dive deeply into a bit, sort of go into a bit more in the next few slides. So the first principle is really do not disturb the soil. So soil supports a complex network of wormholes, fungal hyphae, and a labyrinth of microscopic air pockets surrounded by aggregates of soil particles. Disturbing this through ploughing or heavy doses of fertilizer or sprays will set your system back. So trying to kind of that no-till agriculture we keep hearing about, that's really kind of principle number 1. The next one is keeping that soil covered, so through using cover crops, mulches, etc. This is really because the impact of rain or through the sun or frosts, that can all harm and damage life in the soil. And remember that, you know, a soil contains billions and billions of microorganisms, and that really is your underground livestock. And you want to do as much as you can to protect that underground livestock. So this duvet of growing crops or stubble residues, so not removing everything, just sort of leaving that organic matter on the fields, can protect the soil. The third principle is around maintaining living roots. So in arable rotations, there'll be times when this is hard to do, obviously, but living roots in the soil are vital for feeding creatures at the base of the food soil web. The bacteria and fungi that provide food for protozoa, arthropods, and higher creatures up the food chain also keep the mycorrhizal fungi alive and thriving. And these are vital for nourishing most plants and provide free fertilizer and free water. So brilliant for kind of, you know, maintaining that healthy living soil that we really need for thriving sort of thriving grasslands, thriving meadows, but also our thriving livestock. Principle number 4 is to encourage diversity by growing a diverse range of crops. So ideally, this would all be at the same time, such as in a multi-species meadow. Monocultures are do not happen in nature, so we're looking to mimic nature as much as possible through these system approaches. Soil creatures thrive on varieties, so using things like companion planting or cover cropping will help, and when crops are taken to harvest, will help to feed and protect the soil. And finally, livestock are really important in this system. So it's not about removing the livestock altogether, but this is about kind of looking at about resting land as well. So using holistic and mob grazing methods, using these multi-species lays, which are great for feeding the soil. And when you add the benefits of mob grazed livestock, it supercharges that impact on the soil. So I kind of wanted to give a wee nod at this point as well to the 10 elements of agroecology. This is also a kind of a buzzword, I guess, that's about at the moment. There's a great kind of knowledge exchange program underway with a whole range of different organisations such as Nourish and the Food Farming Countryside Commission and Soil Association and Nature Friendly Farmers Network, who are organising a whole range of different sort of webinars, but also in real life sort of peer sharing experiences around agroecological systems. And really sort of looking at a whole food systems approach. Regenerative farming has an important part to play, as I think you'll probably agree, in agroecological food systems. It's not just about the farming, it's not just about the livestock and looking after the land, it's also about people, culture, sustainable and circular economies, and also, again, coming back to that food partnership approach, looking at responsible governance and policy. Probably talked for over my 10 minutes. I tend to do that. So I'll leave it there